vote. Go back to that 50 Cent post. Because I'm going to tell you why 50 is literally is a diabolical genius.
Let's talk about the Diddy dynasty. We're diving deep into the lives of his sons, Justin, Christian, aka King Combs, and Quincy, and just how crazy things have been for them growing up in the spotlight. Now, when your dad is one of the biggest names in music, you're bound to face some intense pressure, especially when the world is constantly watching your every move. And let's be real, Diddy's legacy isn't just about his music or business empire. It's also about the never-ending controversies that seem to follow him wherever he goes. So how do his sons deal with all that? Well, let's break it down.
Diddy will be sued, and I say will be because nothing has been filed yet, by at least 120 people in the next 30 days.
First up, there's Christian Combs, Diddy's youngest biological son who's been following closely in his dad's footsteps in more ways than one. Not only has he embraced the flashy lifestyle that comes with being part of the Bad Boy Records family, but he's also trying to carve out his own identity as a rapper. Now, that's not an easy task when your dad is one of the biggest names in the game and comparisons are inevitable. Christian's been leaning into that bad boy persona hard, rocking the chains, the cars, and the clothes. But the real question is, how do you step out of your dad's shadow when the world sees you as nothing more than Diddy's son?
We once worked together a long time ago. They're not friends now. They don't like each other. And yeah, 50 has taken every shot, especially when Diddy has been down.
And let's not forget the ongoing feud between Christian and 50 Cent, which has only made things more complicated for him. Christian dropped a diss track that had everyone talking, and it seemed like he was ready to take on 50 head-on. But here's the thing, when you go after someone like 50 Cent, you better be prepared for the fallout because 50 doesn't hold back. In his diss track, Christian threw some heavy shots, referencing 50's iconic track Many Men, and even hinting that his dad's foes would perish trying to take them down. Bold, right? But it didn't stop there. Christian also seemed to accidentally spill some tea about the recent raids on Diddy's properties. In a line that had people raising their eyebrows, Christian basically admitted that there was more evidence hidden in another house that the feds missed during the raid. Talk about snitching on your own father. That's a move you don't see every day, and it definitely added fuel to the fire of everything going on around the Combs family.
If you're just joining us here, was just arrested and taken into federal custody in New York tonight. Sources tell TMZ Homeland Security swooped into a Midtown hotel late Monday where Diddy was staying, and they arrested him.
Now, 50 Cent has been going at Diddy for years. This isn't some new beef that just popped up out of nowhere. No, 50's been taking shots at Diddy for over a decade, and he's been relentless. He's accused Diddy of all sorts of things, from shady business practices to some pretty wild rumors that have been floating around the industry for years. And let's not forget the infamous hospital bed post where 50 insinuated that Diddy was on the down low, which stirred up a lot of controversy. 50's always been one to poke the bear, and Diddy has mostly stayed quiet, but with Christian now stepping into the ring, it seems like things are about to get even messier.
I understand it. It may be more attention than you usually get, but it'll be the kind of attention that when it goes away, you go away completely. Like there's nothing else left.
Here's where things get even crazier. Christian isn't the only one in the family who's had to deal with the weight of Diddy's influence and all the drama that comes with it. Justin Combs, Diddy's oldest biological son, has also faced his fair share of challenges. Remember that time Diddy got into a heated altercation with the UCLA coach over Justin? Yeah, that incident had everyone talking. Diddy was accused of being overprotective, maybe even a little too controlling when it came to his kids. And that's a recurring theme with Diddy. He's got a reputation for being someone who likes to be in control, whether it's in his personal life or his business. So it's no surprise that Justin has had to deal with his dad's larger-than-life persona looming over him as he tries to make his own way in the world.
I have information that he was arrested tonight at a Manhattan hotel. He is currently being processed. I heard from his attorney they are still maintaining his innocence. They said that in anticipation of these charges that Diddy relocated to New York last week.
But it's Quincy, Diddy's stepson, who might have the most interesting story of all. Quincy is the son of Diddy's late partner Kim Porter, and I'll be sure, but Diddy raised him as his own. Quincy's career has taken a slightly different path. He's more into acting and modeling than following in Diddy's musical footsteps, which is probably for the best given all the drama surrounding the music industry right now. However, even Quincy couldn't escape Diddy's controlling nature. A few years back, Quincy wanted to sign a record deal with a different label, but Diddy wasn't having it. He reportedly blocked Quincy's deal, which led to some pretty serious tension between them. Quincy ended up walking away from Bad Boy Records, and while he's still close with the Combs family, that incident showed just how much control Diddy likes to have over the people in his life.
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brand.
And speaking of control, let's not forget the elephant in the room. The raids on Diddy's properties earlier this year. Federal agents raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami. And while Diddy's team has tried to downplay the whole thing, it's clear that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. Christian and Justin were both handcuffed during the raid, and it's been reported that law enforcement found some pretty incriminating stuff, including some items that were definitely not meant to be discovered. Christian's mention of the house next door in his diss track only added to the speculation that there's more to this story than meets the eye.
This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
Now, let's circle back to the 50 Cent beef for a minute, because it's not just about Christian's diss track. 50 has been targeting Diddy for years, and he's made it clear that he thinks there's something seriously wrong with the way Diddy operates. From his cryptic Instagram posts to his not-so-subtle jabs during interviews, 50 has been on a mission to expose Diddy, and he's not holding back. He even went so far as to say that Diddy's behavior is fruity, which obviously caused a lot of people to raise their eyebrows. And then there's the whole shopping spree incident. According to 50, Diddy offered to take him on an all-expenses-paid shopping trip, which left 50 feeling pretty uncomfortable. He's talked about it in interviews, and he's made it clear that he thinks Diddy's intentions were more than just friendly.
Things that's not really beef, though. That's just competitive.
Competitiveness. All right, so you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him.
Okay, damn, all right.
But here's where things get even more interesting. 50 Cent isn't just trolling Diddy on social media. He's reportedly working on a documentary that's going to expose everything. We're talking receipts, video clips, interviews with people who've worked with Diddy over the years. It's going to be a full-blown takedown. 50's been teasing this project for a while, and he's made it clear that he's not stopping until Diddy's entire empire is brought to its knees. The fact that he's gone so far as to hire Hollywood producers to help with the documentary shows just how serious he is about this. And let's be real, if anyone can pull off a project like this, it's 50 Cent. He's got the resources, the connections, and the willingness to go places that most people wouldn't dare.
I think a lot of people thought that he was just joking around. It turns out he's not. So this is actually a real project that's being made under his G-Unit movie and TV.
So where does all of this leave Christian Combs? Well, it's safe to say that he's in a pretty tough spot right now. On the one hand, he's trying to establish himself as a serious artist and step out of his dad's shadow. But on the other hand, he's got this massive target on his back thanks to his connection to Diddy and the ongoing feud with 50 Cent. And with all the legal trouble surrounding his dad, it's hard to imagine that Christian won't be dragged into the mess in some way. Let's not forget that Christian was already mentioned in one of the lawsuits filed against Diddy earlier this year, with claims that he and his brother Justin were involved in some pretty shady stuff. Whether or not Christian can distance himself from all of this remains to be seen, but one thing's for sure, he's got a long road ahead of him if he wants to make a name for himself outside of his father's legacy.
A US judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male sex workers across state lines to take part in recorded sexual performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
As for Justin, he seems to have taken a step back from the spotlight in recent years, but that doesn't mean he's out of the woods. Being Diddy's son comes with its own set of challenges, and Justin has had to deal with the weight of his father's reputation for years. The UCLA incident was just one example of how Diddy's actions have affected his kids, and it's clear that Justin has had to navigate some pretty tricky waters when it comes to his relationship with his dad. It's no secret that Diddy can be overbearing, and Justin has probably felt that more than anyone. And then there's Quincy, who seems to be the most removed from all the drama, at least for now. Quincy's focus on acting and modeling has allowed him to carve out a path that's somewhat separate from his father's influence. But as we've seen with previous incidents, no one in the Combs family is completely immune to the chaos that surrounds Diddy. Quincy's decision to leave Bad Boy Records was a bold move, and it showed that he's willing to stand up to his dad when necessary. But with everything that's happening now, it'll be interesting to see if Quincy continues to stay out of the spotlight or if he'll be pulled back into the fray.
But there's also strategic reasons for the prosecutors to want him to have co-defendant, because right now he hasn't waived his right to a speedy trial, which would force prosecutors to take him to trial pretty quick, which they actually might not be ready to do. But if they supersede him and have co-defendants with him, it makes it a lot easier to pursue a trial continuance without him waiving his speedy trial right.
This ongoing drama between Diddy, his sons, and 50 Cent is far from over, and it's only going to get more intense as time goes on. Diddy's not one to back down from a fight, and neither is 50 Cent, so we can expect plenty more fireworks in the coming months. And with Diddy's legal troubles mounting, the stakes have never been higher. The Combs family is at a crossroads, and the decisions they make in the near future could have a lasting impact on their legacy. Whether Christian, Justin, and Quincy can rise above the drama and define themselves on their own terms remains to be seen, but one thing's for sure, this story is far from over.
We haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic, evidence.
And this brings us to the bigger question. Can Diddy's empire survive the growing storm of legal battles, or will everything come crashing down? Now, let's get into the legal firestorm brewing around Diddy that has the potential to completely dismantle his empire. We're talking about accusations, lawsuits, and federal charges that are so serious that got everyone asking the same question. Will Diddy's legacy survive this? And more importantly, what does this mean for his business empire, Bad Boy Records, Kyrock partnerships, all of it? Because if the rumors are true, Diddy's not just facing a couple of lawsuits or a little bad press. This could be the beginning of the end for one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop.
Crazy, like I said before, they said that 2,300 people reached out to the law firm, and out of the 2,300 people, I guess they decided to go with just a little over 100, which seems like it's they just put out the number and everybody's calling to see if they can get a check.
It's insane. It's insane. Now, again, he did say that nothing has been filed yet because he says he wants to make sure that they do their due diligence and get this right.
So let's break down exactly what's going on. Diddy, who's been at the top of the music industry for decades, is now facing some of the most serious accusations anyone in the industry has ever seen. We're talking racketeering, trafficking, and even claims of forced labor. And it's not just one or two people coming forward. This is a full-blown legal crisis with more than a dozen people involved in lawsuits against him. These accusations date back years, even decades, with some of the claims going all the way back to the 1990s. The allegations are piling up, and it seems like every other day there's a new headline, a new accusation, or another person coming forward.
Civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, sexual assault, and rape at the hands of Diddy.
It all started to unravel last year when Diddy's former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, filed a civil lawsuit against him. Now, if you're not familiar with Cassie, she was in a long-term relationship with Diddy for over a decade, and they were seen as one of hip-hop's power couples for years. But behind the scenes, according to Cassie's claims, things were far from glamorous. In her lawsuit, she alleged that Diddy trapped her in a cycle of physical and emotional abuse, controlling every aspect of her life for over 10 years. She also claimed that he forced her into highly disturbing situations that involved multiple people, and let's just say none of it was consensual. According to Cassie, she was manipulated and coerced into doing things she never wanted to do, and she finally decided to speak out.
Diddy would be throwing all his celebrity mates under the bus.
I mean, that could potentially be coming when it's time for court and when it's time for him to testify. But what we're seeing right now is how important public relations really are to Sean Combs. He's desperately trying to control the narrative behind bars, allowing his attorneys to do documentaries.
What makes Cassie's case even more explosive is that just one day after she filed the lawsuit, it was settled. Now, that raised a lot of eyebrows. Why would Diddy settle so quickly if he believed he was innocent? His legal team was quick to say that the settlement wasn't an admission of guilt, but let's be real. Selling a lawsuit in 24 hours doesn't exactly scream I'm not guilty, does it? That quick settlement sent shockwaves through the industry, and it wasn't long before other people started coming forward with their own stories.
Not done, and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case?
I'm not taking anything off the table.
And that's when things really started to spiral out of control for Diddy. Cassie's lawsuit opened the floodgates. Shortly after, more women, and even some men, filed lawsuits accusing Diddy of similar behavior. They all tell a similar story. Diddy abused his power, manipulated people, and used his influence in the entertainment industry to get away with things that most people couldn't even imagine. Some of the accusations are so outrageous, they sound like they belong in a movie. But here's the thing, people are taking these claims seriously, and the legal system is getting involved in a big way.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
The turning point came earlier this year when federal agents raided Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. These weren't just casual visits either. The raids were part of a massive investigation that had been going on for months, maybe even years. According to reports, the agents found all kinds of incriminating evidence during the searches. We're talking about items that were allegedly used in some of the disturbing acts Diddy is being accused of. And let's not forget the fact that firearms were found on his properties, which only adds another layer of legal trouble to the mix.
It's a question of that, but when you read through the indictment, it's pretty clear who could be indicted as a co-conspirator. Right now, there are people in the indictment who would be considered unnamed co-conspirators, but clearly have played a role in this conspiracy. And I think prosecutors have some big leverage on them because they're hoping that they testify against Diddy as prosecution witnesses.
Diddy's legal team has been doing everything they can to downplay the situation. They've issued statements saying that Diddy is cooperating fully with the investigation, that he's innocent, and that all of these accusations are just a money grab by people looking to cash in on his success. But here's the thing, when you've got federal agents raiding your homes and multiple lawsuits being filed against you, it's hard to just brush it off as a cash grab. This isn't just about one or two people making wild claims. This is about a pattern of behavior that's been going on for years, and the legal system is finally catching up to him.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on side watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest.
Now, if Diddy is found guilty of even half of the things he's being accused of, he's facing some serious time behind bars, possibly life in prison. That's right, life. We're not talking about a slap on the wrist or a fine here. These are federal charges, and the government isn't playing around. They've reportedly spoken to over 50 witnesses, and they're building a case that could take down one of the biggest names in the entertainment industry. And if the rumors are true, this case could expand even further, with more charges being added and more people being brought in as defendants.
If that's part of the indictment, that's somewhat like a blackmail. He was blackmailing people to be in the freak-offs. So that's federal. That could be that's a federal charge. He can't blackmail people to say, yo, listen here, you did it once and you're going to do it again. That ain't gonna make it with the government or nobody.
But what does all of this mean for Diddy's business empire? Well, it's not looking good. Diddy has built an empire over the years with multiple streams of revenue coming from his record label, his partnership with Kyrock, his clothing line, and various other ventures. But when you're facing charges like this, it's hard to keep business as usual. Brands are all about image, and right now, Diddy's image is anything but clean. There have already been rumblings that some of his business partners are starting to distance themselves from him. And honestly, who can blame them? No one wants to be associated with someone facing these kinds of accusations. Let's talk about Bad Boy Records for a minute. This is the label that Diddy built his career on, and it's been home to some of the biggest names in hip-hop over the years. But with Diddy's legal troubles mounting, the future of the label is looking shaky. Artists don't want to be associated with a label that's tied up in legal drama, and fans are starting to question whether they want to support someone with such a tarnished reputation. In an industry that's all about reputation and influence, Diddy's stock is dropping fast. And then there's his partnership with Kyrock. Diddy has been the face of Kyrock for years, and he's been instrumental in turning it into one of the most popular premium spirits on the market. But with everything that's going on, you have to wonder how long Kyrock is going to stick by him. In today's climate, where brands are quick to cut ties with anyone facing controversy, it wouldn't be surprising if Kyrock decided to quietly phase Diddy out. As much as he's been a valuable asset to them in the past, the negative press surrounding him might be too much for them to handle.
Don't trust nobody. In Hollywood specifically, when you get there, a lot of people don't know how to say no. That's the difference between New York City and California.
And it's not just his business ventures that are at risk. Diddy's legacy as a cultural icon is on the line too. For years, he's been seen as one of the most influential figures in hip-hop. He's won countless awards, worked with some of the biggest names in the industry, and helped shape the sound of modern music. But all of that could come crashing down if he's convicted. People don't forget scandals like this. And even if he manages to avoid jail time, his reputation is forever tainted. The hip-hop community is already starting to distance itself from him. Artists who once looked up to him are staying quiet, and the industry as a whole seems to be bracing for the fallout.
As far as, is he going to turn people in? Is he going to cooperate? If the federal government wants him to cooperate, and they're going to cut his time, because right now he's looking at 15 to life. With all the charges he won't get out till 70 years old. He about 70. That's when they start talking about letting them come to a halfway house.
And let's not forget about his family. We've already talked about how his sons, Christian and Justin, have been dragged into the drama, but what about the rest of his family? Diddy's always portrayed himself as a family man, but these accusations paint a very different picture. His children are old enough to understand what's going on, and they're probably feeling the pressure just as much as he is. It's hard to imagine what it must be like to have your father's name all over the news for something like this, and it's only going to get worse as the legal battle drags on.
It's to be expected, just the shock of this and the questions about what is ahead of us. I mean, how long is he going to be in custody? Is this an R. Kelly situation? Is he going to not get out for a number of years? Is he going to end up serving a long-term prison sentence from this? Or does he have a chance of beating these charges at a trial that could come, within the next 2 years?
So what happens next? Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Right now, Diddy is being held without bail, which means he's not going anywhere until his trial. His legal team is working overtime to try to get him out on bail, but so far, the courts aren't budging. They see him as a flight risk, and considering the charges he's facing, it's not hard to see why. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars, and that's a pretty strong incentive to run.
That he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on side watch.
But what's even more concerning is the possibility that more people will come forward with their own stories. We've already seen a handful of lawsuits filed, but if the rumors are true, there are a lot more people out there who have been affected by Diddy's actions. And as the investigation continues, we could see even more charges added to the case. This legal battle is far from over, and it's only going to get more intense as more evidence comes to light. The real question is, can Diddy survive this? Can his empire withstand the pressure? Or is this the beginning of the end for one of the most powerful figures in the entertainment industry? It's hard to say. On the one hand, Diddy's been through scandals before, and he's always managed to come out on top. But this time feels different. This time feels different. This time, the stakes are higher, and the accusations are much more serious. Even if he manages to avoid jail time, his reputation is taking a hit that might be impossible to recover from. And what about his sons? Christian, Justin, and Quincy have all been affected by this in one way or another. They've grown up in the spotlight, living in the shadow of their father's success. But now they're also living in the shadow of his scandals. Can they step out from that shadow and build their own legacies, or will they always be tied to their father's controversial past? One thing's for sure, this story is far from over. The legal battle is just getting started, and as more details come to light, we're going to see just how deep this goes. We're going to see just how deep this goes. Will Diddy's empire crumble under the weight of these accusations, or will he find a way to bounce back like he always has? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other celebrity scandals.